So my department is responsible for all capital projects for the city of Iqaluit. So, waste, roads, sewage, water supply, all those types of things. We're also responsible for long-term sustainability in the city of Iqaluit, which is currently the development of a long-term sustainability plan for the city.
So Megan, in terms of sustainability, one of the things that people have said about Nunavut is that they have a unique definition for sustainability, which is closer to what we would normally want for people understanding environmental sustainability across the country. Can you tell us what your idea of sustainability is?
Well, right now, in terms of the development of our long-term sustainability plan, so where we are in that process right now is at the very beginning of it, and that process involves extensive community engagement and consultation to define what our community here in Iqaluit sees a sustainable Iqaluit as. So right now we're just starting that process, so that's what we'll be determining as we consult with the community to see what they see in terms of a sustainable Iqaluit.
One of the other things that we've been hearing from people is that for the Inuit people, they consider things like climate change just to be more change, not necessarily very specific to warming, but a whole series of different variables that are changing. How does that kind of understanding factor into what you're trying to do and trying to get people to understand what you're doing with sustainability in the future?
So in terms of climate change, at the city, what we've been working on is, so in 2007 there was a climate change kind of infrastructure report that looked at how climate change may impact the city's infrastructure. Also, as we move forward on our sustainability plan, we're going to be incorporating climate change adaptation into that entire planning process so that we also incorporate the other elements like economic development, social impacts, cultural impacts. So that's how we'll be dealing with it at the city. We've also been integrating it into our capital projects, making sure that our designs incorporate the projections in terms of temperature rise, permafrost degradation, sea level rise, and those aspects of climate change. I don't feel like I'm really in a position to comment on traditional views on climate change, so I'll keep it to that. Yeah.
Well, that's, in terms of the challenges that you face and that Iqaluit faces with the changes for the future and sustainability, what are some of the major challenges that you face?
Sorry, let me just think about how I want to answer that, because that's a big question.
How it differs from the South, how people think about the impacts of change.
The impacts of change. Okay. So I think I'll speak to this question in terms of climate change adaptation.
Perfect.
And I think one aspect that we recognize, do you want me to start again? Yeah. Okay. So in terms of climate change adaptation, one element that we're dealing with here is a changing environment, and also how to incorporate all the new information that is coming in, right? And so we feel that being able to make good decisions is based on having the most current up-to-date information. And it's a challenge to figure out how to make sure we collect all that information, have it on hand, and then can immediately incorporate it into decision making. And I find that's, I think, going to be one of the biggest challenges for us, at least in our work here.
Now, in terms of the communication, because as we know, it can be very complex in terms of the future designs of that infrastructure that you're trying to work on, how do you communicate that to the public at large and get them on side and supportive of what you're doing?
So I can give you an example of a current project that we're working on. Right now we're working on developing a new solid waste management program for the city, and that will involve developing the solid waste management program, selecting the type of infrastructure that we'll be building for that program, and also selecting a site. And in terms of public engagement, we've had quite an extensive public consultation process involving open houses, newsletters to get information out, direct interviews with stakeholders, meetings with elders and youth. So up here we need to use a wide variety of methods to interact with our community to make sure that everyone has a chance to know what's going on and to provide their input into the process.
Now, we're going to do a little bit of a swap here because Dr. Yves-Jean is also involved in the same things, but he has some specific questions, I think, that he would like to ask that you want to utilize. We're doing okay?
Okay.
What are some of the main messages that you think are necessary for people that aren't in the North to understand about some of these challenges you have in doing your job?
Okay, just let me think for 1 second. I'm assuming you're going to be cutting this together.
Oh, yes, indeed.
So you want kind of people to understand the differences between doing work here and doing work in the South and the challenges that we face. Okay.
Because they think of infrastructure. I mean, we are spoiled in the South. You know, in most cases, infrastructure is something that can be upgraded, changed fairly easily. To where you always seem to be a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Okay, let me just think about how I want to frame this. So the question was basically what's different about planning up here compared to in the South? Okay. Okay, so there are definitely some unique challenges in terms of doing projects up here in the North. One is definitely transportation of goods and availability of services in our community. When we're considering, for example, the development of our new solid waste management program, we have to think about concepts such as appropriate technology. What services are available in our community, which technologies would make sense to use in our remote location, in our climate, and with the available expertise in our community, and what expertise would be required to bring into the community or training. Obviously, for some types of projects, shipping materials up is dependent on our sea lift season. So some projects may have to wait a year to do them. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of how much. Pardon? Oh yeah. Also, yes, definitely. Cost is a major factor with the shipping, additional shipping, and in general, cost of services is more expensive up here.
And it would seem that your window of opportunities seems to be much shorter in many cases in terms of actually just sort of working on things.
Definitely. In terms of I'll just start that again.
We'll just
yeah, we'll just wait.
George.
Visually, it's awesome.
And you're bang on. Because these are some of the things that we think about and trying to convey. And one of the things about what we're trying to do is the voices of the North. Instead of people pick up literature. So I picked this up and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but what's so hard about that?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what was I just saying there? I was talking about...
So we're talking about costs.
Oh, timing. Okay. Timing is definitely a critical thing for our projects because of, we have a specific window of time in terms of construction season, which is short, but also getting things ordered and, put on the boats and shipped up. We can literally miss the boat on a project and it will have to wait till the next year if materials don't come up. So there is a lot of probably more steps in terms of planning to make sure that everything's ready to go for construction season.
Great. Other questions?
Have you got any other questions?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'd want to say.
Yeah, that was going to be my
Yeah.
one. What are those other things that you'd like to share with us? You still make it sound like it's pretty easy. You take it so cool, calm, and it's almost as if there's some things that you can do, and you just have to realize that that's what we can do.
Yeah.
Are you from the area?
I've lived here for 3 years. I'm from Ottawa originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So was that a bit of a shock when you came up here? You went, oh, this is different, or wasn't that bad?
I love it up here. Yeah. So I think, I came up here with an open mind and was really pleasantly surprised. I think it's a beautiful place to live. And one thing that I might talk about is, another thing that's happening up here is there's a lot of research going on around climate change, which we're very happy about because obviously, as I mentioned earlier, having up-to-date information about either past conditions or future projections is really important to us. But one thing that we're trying to do is develop relationships with researchers so that we can make sure that the information being gathered is useful in our decision-making process, and that's definitely a key thing that's very important to our work.
So do you use the research? So far you use it concretely, or is it still in process?
Sorry, just stand on that side of the camera. Thanks.
So definitely there's, I find that right now research is mostly being used for context, to understand trends and general context. I think we're all learning in terms of, our department, researchers, and then practitioners, how to translate, data into making specific decisions based on specific data. It requires, a real kind of cross-disciplinary work and communication and figuring out how to kind of deal with that interface between disciplines. And that's something that we're always working at and trying to get better at doing, and it is definitely going to be really important as we move forward into the future.
You'd mentioned sort of the turnaround and application of the research. Something we heard yesterday from a research scientist in the water area is that there almost seemed to be research fatigue. People saying, you're doing so much research on the north. We want to see it actually applied and do something for us. Do you encounter that?
So I believe that more research is always better, but like I said, I think it's important that researchers are working together with municipalities, especially in the north, to make sure that research questions are framed in a way and that data is collected in a way that it can be used by the municipality to answer or help us address some of the projects that we're working on.